Hi, I'm Jess. Thank you so much for joining me on video 2. I am super excited to talk to you about objection handling. Coming from the corporate world, I am probably the biggest fan of objections ever because I don't see them as objections. I mean, yes, they're inconvenient, and yes, sometimes they can lead to you not getting the sale. But actually, if you handle them in the right way, and if you think about them in the right way, they're just your prospective buyer looking for some kind of reassurance around their purchase. So they do test you, and believe me, I come from corporate sales. I'm pretty resilient, and even I get stumped by objections sometimes. But I really want you to take away from this video that actually there are really good ways of dealing with objections from a place of integrity and from a place of actually helping your ideal client. So when you're selling your own services, it can be really tough to show just how amazing the service or the product is when you come up against objections. Now, the reason being is that we are ingrained to think when we get an objection, oh my goodness, this person doesn't like my stuff, they hate me, they're not going to buy, this is awful, what do I do? And so basically that's your brain telling you to panic because there is an objection. So I want you to think about it. Every time that you've had an objection, and you need to be thinking about a big scenario, like when you've been buying a house or when you've been buying a car, a substantial investment, because that's what your products or services are. Think about, despite the fact that that house, that car may have been absolutely amazing, but how there was just that little voice in your head that was asking for some extra reassurance. And so when you were talking to the salesperson, it didn't come out like you wanted extra reassurance, it just came out like, oh, I'm not really sure I like the colour of the walls, or I definitely wanted a car with 4 doors. Do you see what I mean? Now, this is exactly how your prospective client feels. Their objections are them looking for reassurance, especially if you've done all of the pre-work necessary for your discovery call. So if you've gone through the pre-discovery call questionnaire, and if you've run the sales process in the right way, your prospective client may only have objections that actually are them just looking for reassurance. So let's look at the most common types of objections. I can't afford it. That's a huge one. And really, if you do your pre-discovery call questionnaire and you do your work properly, actually it's not one you're going to come up against that often. The reason being that on your pre-discovery call questionnaire, you're going to be saying to them, are you financially able to invest in this product or service at this time? So you've already prepared. And so if they're joining you on your discovery call, then they absolutely can do that. And they are in a position to do that financially. The second most common one is, I need to talk to someone, my husband, wife, partner, about it before I commit. Again, this is something that you could even preempt on a pre-discovery call questionnaire. Are you ready to make this decision? Is there anybody that you're going to need to talk about it beforehand with? And if there is, please talk to them before our discovery call, because I don't want you to walk into something and then have to miss out on any fast action bonuses that I might be offering at that time. Another one is, I need to think about it. Now, I'm going to break it to you, and this is going to sound awful, but it's true. If somebody says to you, I need to think about it, 9 times out of 10, you haven't done a good enough job selling them your product or service. So you need to go back and be questioning that. That's something that we're going to come on to in a short while. Another one is, I need to find the money. Again, that comes back to pre-discovery call questionnaire. And another one can be, I just don't know if it's right for me. Now, all of those objections are perfectly natural, and they're a really good way for you to actually understand the reservations that a potential client might be having about investing in your service. But what you have to remember is that by handling their objections, you're not actually forcing them into the sale. What you're doing is offering them the opportunity to explore working with you. and explore how their life could potentially change and whether or not your product or service is actually right for you. Now, during your discovery call, you'll have already reassured them that you will only be sharing the sale if you genuinely believe it's something that can actually help them move forward. So they already know that you're working from a place and operating from a place of honesty and integrity, and they will have that trust with you from that point. So when you ask if you'd like to help them explore their objections, they're very, very likely to say yes. Now, I want to look at some of the ways that you can really face the objection in a calm, polite, and effective manner so that you can make the most of your sales process and actually make you and your prospective client feel really comfortable about exploring the objection. So the first way that I always go with objections is actually face the objection head on. Now, I'm pretty direct, so I have absolutely no problem with saying to somebody, okay, no problem. What is it that you actually have the problem with? Is the problem really the program or the product or service? Or is it that there's just something that doesn't resonate with you? Because you have to establish, as the coach, as the person in the position of authority, whether the objection is actually a real objection or whether it's just that they need reassurance. So, for example, if your client comes back to you and says, I just kind of need to think about it, the best way to deal with it is to say, okay, that's totally fine. I get it. It's a big investment, and I was exactly the same when I went to invest in a coach myself. So I completely understand. Is there something about it, though, that isn't resonating with you, or that you want to ask further questions on? If I can understand what doesn't meet your expectations about it, perhaps there's something else that might fit you slightly better. So do you see what I did there? Faced the objection head on, empathized with the potential buyer to say that I understood, and then gave them the opportunity to establish whether their objection was real by giving me some reasoning around why it might not feel like a good fit for them right now, or whether they can just turn around and say, actually, do you know what? I just don't think that this program is right for me. Now, when you decide to start facing the objection head on, which can seem really scary, but phrased in the right way, is actually just really helpful for your client. You then need to explore it. Now, like in the discovery phase of your discovery call, you need to be really understanding what it is that their potential reservations are around working with you. Is it that they don't feel like it's the right fit? Is it that they don't feel like the course, the program, the service just isn't resonating with them? Is it that they have concerns over the timescale or the amount that they're going to be needing to do in the timescale? Perhaps there's somebody that thought they could do it with a lot less work. Either way, you need to explore that objection and really find out what it is so that you can help to reassure them around it. So some great questions that I always use if I do get objections are, okay, are there any questions that you feel you still need answering or that I haven't explained fully? Or things like, what doesn't feel right for you? Or do you have any concerns around the program or the service? Do you feel like it isn't the right fit? Or do you feel like the investment is going to be a struggle for you? Giving them the opportunity to answer and to really explore their objections actually empowers them, but it gives them the opportunity to actually think about what isn't feeling right for them and asking you any last minute questions before they make that big and sometimes long-term investment with you. After you've explored the objection, you've really dug into what the problem is, that's when you need to actually start reassuring them. Now, the only objection that I do not reassure people around is money. Money is a difficult one, and as a business coach, I can never guarantee that somebody will make money or make the amount of money that they desire in their discovery phase. So for me, money objections are handled slightly differently. You can explore them and you can certainly say, okay, if the objection that comes up is, I just don't have the money right now, or I'm not sure how I can find the money, I always say to people, look, I'm not a financial advisor by any means, but what I can tell you is that I've had numerous clients that have worked with me who have gone ahead and made their goals. But it's all been dependent on the amount of work that they've put in and how dedicated they are to really achieving those results, because this isn't easy. When it comes to actually exploring that money objection, the questions that I tend to ask are around how they could potentially find the money. So I will sometimes say to people, okay, cool. So when you signed up for my discovery call, you'd obviously taken a look at the packages and the programs. Would a longer installment plan be useful for you? Or is there some opportunity that you might, if it's a seasonal period, have some holiday money that you might be able to put into your investment fund? The one thing that I will never do is advise that anybody gets credit or that anybody takes out a loan or money out of their 401k or any of those options, because I'm not a financial advisor. And actually, when people start with me, I want them to start with me because they're excited, because they're super stoked that they're going to be selling all their amazing products and services, that they're going to be blitzing it with clients, and not starting from that place of overwhelm that says, oh my goodness, in another month I'm going to have to pay another $1,000 and I have no idea where that's coming from. Okay, so just be careful about the way that you objection handle and just think about it from a really realistic perspective. You cannot promise results. The results are up to your client. So the only reassurance you can give around money is, okay, have you seen my testimonials? These are what my other clients have achieved and this is why it's been a worthwhile investment for them. The sorts of work that they did to achieve these results were taken over a period of X amount of weeks, and then you can let them make their decision from there. With every other objection though, reassurance is key. Sometimes a client isn't looking for you to keep selling the product. Sometimes they're just looking for you to reassure them that actually this is the right decision, and that you can really help them. Now, like I say, you can't guarantee results, but you can definitely talk them through what the investment is and what can really be achieved through investing in themselves properly. So ways that you can do this are talking and re-summarizing what you've already been through. So saying, okay, after everything we've discussed today around the things that you want to achieve, like X, Y, Z, and the areas that you need support, like X, Y, Z, I really think that you need support with a coach. Now, obviously, that support can come from me, or it can come from somebody else, but I don't want you to look back in 3 months, 6 months, a year's time, and not see the results that you were looking for because you were too scared to invest. Obviously, like everything, coaching really is an investment, and by investing and trusting somebody else to help you master the areas in which you need support, you're actually being really smart, because what you're doing is fast tracking your ability to get results, because you're actually learning from somebody who's been there and done it, and can give you that roadmap rather than you having to do it yourself and learn from your own mistakes. Does that make sense? Again, by summarizing it shows that you have listened actively to what it is that they are looking to achieve. It also shows that you know exactly what it is that they want to achieve, and you know that you have a plan to help them do that. And by asking, does that sound right? Does that make sense? How does that sound to you? Again, you're giving them permission. You're bringing them back on the journey. Now, you can also do something by saying, okay, I'll empathize. I absolutely understand where you're coming from. I did exactly the same and felt exactly the same when I invested in my first coach. I was really scared because it was a huge investment, but actually the results that I got from investing in that program, product, service were X, Y, Z. That really helped me because I became more in alignment, or because I got more healthy, or because I gained clarity on my message, or because I started selling more programs. It's about you empathizing, and that's the key things. With objection handling, what you really want to make sure is that you Empathise, that you face the objection head on, and that you are able to reassure them that they really are doing the right thing, only if you think they are. So really think that through. And now go ahead, face your objections, and stop worrying that they don't want to buy your product or service. They really do. They just don't always know that straight away. Thanks for joining me.